Oblivion, 10 out of 10 game, a must play. Skyrim, a 10 out of 10 game, must play, must mod, get it on your toaster. The Elder Scrolls Online, I would rather shit in my hands and clap than play ESO ever again. Let's just say I have some issues with that game. And then we have Morrowind, a game which I probably have about 2, maybe 3 hours in. And even then, the quality of those hours played, I would say they were questionable at best.
If I was 12, I would be turned on.
And recently, I've been on a bit of a side quest, trying out a variety of MMOs. And I know what you're thinking. Morrowind is not a MMO. But what if it was? I have literally made videos about MMOs with 0 players online. The Morrowind multiplayer mod has a whole host of dedicated servers with actual people playing. It has guilds, it has trading, and it even has player housing, something WoW has yet to introduce. That sounds pretty MMO-like to me. So I think it's about time that we go and play The Elder Scrolls Online. Getting started couldn't be simpler. I chose a server, I picked the name, I created a password, and then I had to create my character. Just be warned though, the original character models have aged like vinegar.
Look how they mess with my boy.
I was tempted to be an orc, but I decided to play it safe and become a Nord. I didn't want to be a stereotypical Nord, you know, big beard, big hair.
Noob Master, hey, it's Thor again. You know, the god of thunder?
I decided to go for more of a modern, elderly gentleman playing Morrowind for the first time. If you ask me, I think I nailed it. The Nord came preset with skill bonuses and specials, and I didn't read any of this, I just wanted to look cool. I had an option to fine-tune my class or pick a ready-made one, and I used the ready-made one because last time I made my own class, I couldn't even kill a scrib. This might take a while. Basically, the combat uses RNG, and if you don't have enough skills in the weapon that you're using, you're going to do no damage. So I'm going to leave it to the experts. But in regards to picking my class, I basically went with the one that sounded the coolest. And no, I didn't go Bard because honestly, it just sounds quite lame. What are you going to do, sing people to death? So I opted for Battle Mage with the Warrior Mundus, and I was ready to go. Also, I thought.
Do you know that you have rights?
I had to agree to the server rules before I can get started, and to be honest, a lot of them were fair. I see why they're there, but some of them, I just don't understand. Why are we here if we can't URP?
You have been banned from the Mickey Mouse Club for inappropriate behavior.
There was an IQ test where you had to click on the right I agree button, and to solve this, you had to read, which is very difficult. And just like that, I was on the server and ready to get playing. Fun fact, every Elder Scrolls title I've ever played, I've used a controller for, but today, I thought I'd use mouse and keyboard. Ooh. So yes, it took me about 20 minutes to figure out the controls, and I had to put up a website to tell me what the keybinds were, but for the most part, I think I figured it out. How the fuck do I pick up items? Honestly, which button is it? Okay, mostly figured it out. I'm pretty confident nothing in that room was lootable, and it wasn't my fault. Well, that's what I told myself anyway. I spoke to a gentleman called Sedus Gravius, who apparently had been expecting my arrival. One thing I had forgotten about this game was that there was no voice acting when it came to the walls of text that the NPCs happily laid upon you. You had to actually read it yourself and click on the appropriate blue coloured words. I'm pretty confident no kid alive today would ever play this game because it involves reading more than 2 sentences. But anyway, I was given a fetch quest to go to Balmora and deliver a package to some random guy who I've never met before. This pretty much sounds like every other MMO I've ever played.
Can we hurry this along?
At first glance, I can see that the server was quite active. There's players logging in and logging back out again, but overall, the numbers seem to average around 13 or 14 players, which is close to what New World has these days. Graphically, I think the game holds up quite well, but I was interested to know if I could install some mods. I'm not expecting UE5 Morrowind, but I have seen some quite decent shaders and some quality of life features that could be added. So I decided to be social and just ask the global chat and see what happens. And whilst I waited for a reply, I decided to rob this poor guy's house. It was whilst looting this poor guy's house that I actually got an answer to my question. And the reply basically said, check the Discord and learn to fucking read. Now, they didn't quite say those exact words, but that's what I would have said. And the Discord server had over 2,000 members, which is very impressive. That's MMO level of members. I had a quick glance at the player list, and to my surprise, there were people flagged for PvP. That is a very hardcore player right there. Whilst hanging around town, a miracle happened. I spotted another player. This looked to be a veteran player because they seemed to leave the office and go straight to these two without even looking around. I then tried to communicate with them with the only way I knew how, which was to jump up and down. By the time I found the crouch button, they turned their back and ran off. So, like any degenerate playing a MMO, I followed them. Honestly, you have to admire the walking animations in Morrowind. They are something else. By the time I reached them, they had become aware of my presence and then proceeded to stare at me and then started to teabag me, which everyone knows is universal gamer speak for hello. I kicked off the conversation with the hi, I'm new, which always goes down a storm, and then proceeded to try and roleplay in the global chat. It's safe to say they didn't care about the roleplay anyway. I mean, they were interested in the conversation I was having earlier, so it was good. I mean, they were friendly and nice, and they gave me a bit of advice. They just didn't want to indulge in my RP fantasies. To be honest though, I was just happy to see other players talking and actual people playing the game. But listen, I had no time to be social. I had a mission to complete, and apparently it cost a bit of money to get to Balmora, so I opted to walk instead. But before I went, I did go back to town to do one last thing. I went and spoke to the two people that the Argonian spoke to, simply because it looked like the right thing to do. And apparently it was a good thing that I did. In my haste to get out of the office, I'd actually missed out on a quest item. So I gave the ring to this elf. Honestly, how is this a fucking elf? And then made my way to the local shop where I sold all my stolen items and then purchased a sword. I was now ready to head to Balmora. So off I went on my silly little adventure with my silly little sword, where I was about to run into my first true test.
Oh shit! A rat!
Turns out I had all the necessary points in the right areas to kill a rat. I suddenly felt more confident about my adventure. I went on to kill several other creatures before reaching my first pit stop. One of which was a Gua, which up until this point I assumed were friendly because Elder Scrolls Online had taught me so. They lied. Guess it must have been a wild Gua. I arrived at the next town over, where I set my spawn point and just took in the sights and got to know the people of Pelagiad. I think that's how you pronounce it. I didn't stay for long though, because I did need to get to Balmora, despite the local critters trying to convince me to stay. I hadn't travelled far before I was savagely attacked by some beasts. Who killed me and took half my gold. Well, that was embarrassing. I sure hope nothing like that happens again.
A few moments later.
I'm dying. Help me.
I didn't feel too bad though, because apparently there was a lot of it going around. Anyway, I took a slightly different route, and before I knew it, I was finally at Balmora. And this was where I was finally going to realise how much of an MMO this mod actually is. So it turns out that Balmora is actually a bit of a player hub. I don't know the lore of Balmora or what makes it so attractive to other players, but a lot of people were congregating around here. And also where this signpost was a nice little place to deposit free gear to anyone who might need it. I quietly observed as these two players were talking to each other and trying to create a potion to jump pretty high, I think. It was funny watching them trade with each other because they had to do it in real time, I guess, like put the items on the floor and then take them one by one. The Argonians seemed to have specialised in alchemy, so they were quite proficient. It was almost like they had their very own profession. Honestly, they must have thought I was a right weirdo just sat there watching them talking away, or that I might be trying to steal the potion off them. Eventually the potion was made and this guy clearly drank it because all of a sudden he was bouncing off every fucking wall.
I'm fast as fuck, boy. Still fast as fuck, boy. Come get some.
I couldn't make up my mind as to whether what this guy was doing was impressive or he just needed more Ritalin. Anyway, I had my own adventuring to do, which is when I met this guy. I said hello and to my surprise, he actually answered back. In-game.
By the gods, it's good to see you again.
Who knew this game had VoIP? Unknowingly, I was staring into the eyes of a complete madman. I would soon find out that this guy was either Sher Gorath in disguise, or perhaps another Daedric prince.
You there, you there, you there. Can you help a warrior in trouble?
I didn't know how to respond, so I just teabagged on the spot. Which they also did. I'm pretty sure this guy then went on to break the ERP law.
What makes this smell? What makes this smell? You there? Can you help a warrior? Come, friend. You there, you there, you there, you there. Can you help a warrior?
Honestly, it's a stupid rule because I was enjoying this.
Get out of my ass.
Still, to this day, I have no idea who this man was or where he even came from. I don't know why, but I got the impression he wanted me to follow him. Or maybe he just wanted to jump on my head.
You knew Plop.
I finally cracked him, and I replied, "How could you tell?"
Do this quest.
They wanted me to do this seasonal quest for St. Patrick's Day, where I had to go away and get some green beer. Unknowingly, I was about to embark on one of the longest fetch quests you've ever seen in a Elder Scrolls title.
Last day of the event.
So I picked up the quest and asked, what next? They proceeded to lead me to a bar where I had to speak to a barmaid about some green beer.
Oh yeah, you need a bit of gold. Anyone got a loan for Plop lol?
In order to complete this quest, you need a couple thousand gold. So far, I had 50.
Taste my ask.
What was that?
I'll be honest, I wasn't too bothered about doing the quest, considering I hadn't even started the main story quest line, but they seemed quite persistent and I figured it would give me a chance to be social. I mean, it is an MMO after all. But not only that, the reward for completing the quest was some pants that give 2 times drop chance luck and XP. And this is where I was introduced to Gizkar, who was also doing the same quest and offered to be my chaperone. Spoiler alert, this guy is a fucking hero. But anyway, I was given some money, a small loan as they called it.
It has not been easy for me, and my father gave me a small loan of $1 million.
And off we went on our adventure. Rather than bore you to death and tell you every intricate part of the quest, I'm just going to give you a brief overview, and it goes like this. Because it's St. Patrick's Day, the green beer is very popular, so therefore there's not much of it about, so any that you can get your hands on costs a lot of money. The barmaid in Balmora offered me some green beer for 1,500 coins, which I accepted because I have no other choice. By the way, I need 3 green beers to complete this quest. She advises that the bar called Hole in the Wall, which is in another area,
There's a hole in the wall. We're just trying to figure out what it is.
Has some green beer, and I should go there if I want some more. Luckily, my companion knows that Hole in the Wall is actually in If Morrowind. Now, we could obviously walk there, but that would take too long, so we used the major skill to fast travel there to the other major skill in If Morrowind, and then walk to the bar. When I get to the bar, the barman tells me they have no more green beer left. They do, however, have one reserved, which is for an elf who works outside the bar. The barman agrees that if I can get the elf to sign a letter to say that I can have the green beer, then by all means I can have the green beer. So I go outside and speak to the elf and say, hey, I have the green beer. The elf doesn't want to give me the beer, but I convince him that there's a better, more famous ale in Balmora that I can bring him back in exchange for the green beer. The elf reluctantly agrees. So off I go back to Balmora to speak to the barmaid who sold me the first green beer and asked her to make me a famous ale. She asked me what ingredients should I use, and I give her a list of stuff that I'd really like to have the famous ale to have. She kindly gives me the free ale, and off I go back to If Morrowind to go speak to the elf to get him to sign a letter to say that I can have the green beer, speak to the barman in If Elf, and get him the second green beer. The second green beer cost me 3,500 gold. The last beer is located in Saint-Denis, so off I go, travel to Saint-Denis to speak to the barmaid to ask if they have a green beer. And would you believe it, the green beer currently is out of stock, their shipment has been delayed, and if I really want to help them out, I should go to Ebonheart and see if I can move the shipment along, which I kindly agreed to do. So me and my companion travelled to Vivek City to go take the boat to Ebonheart. And you would never believe it, the game crashed. Which wasn't the worst bit, apparently you just restart and it'll come back. The worst bit was, when I did restart and get back in the game, we soon realised that I no longer had the quest. It had just restarted. In fact, I had to go pick up all over again. I went through several different emotions. At first, I felt anger. I then felt distress once I realised that even though I had 2 beers, I still had to go get all 3 again. But you know what? The fact that these guys took time out of their day to help me, a noob, complete this quest, and they were still willing to help me even though it fucked up, I don't know, man. I felt like I owed it to them to go and finish this quest. Even though it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning on a school night, I owed it to them. So cue the music because it's time for a montage. So off I went. First beer, done. Second stop, If Morrowind. Barman spoken to, elf spoken to, back to Balmora. Famous ale, acquired. Second green beer, now owned. Now off to Saint-Denis and then to Ebonheart. Ebonheart, loaded. Stocks, acquired, and back to Saint-Denis. Plot twist. I need to find some shamrocks to put in the green beer. Me and my companion have to go on a killing spree. So we go to an island full of mud crabs, and I literally use magic to walk on water. A few mud crabs later, and we both had shamrocks to get our third and final beer. Back to the bar we go to get our third and final beer, and then back to the Nord, who then informs us he's lost his pants. Apparently, a goblin took them, which meant the quest continued, and we had to track down the goblin, kill it, get the pants, and return to the Nord. And just like that, the world's longest quest was completed. Yes, it might have been a long quest. Yes, it was definitely a fetch quest. But you know what? I made friends on the way. It was definitely a social activity. And it felt very MMO-like. I mean, hell, you can even call it a raid boss. Us lot just ganging up on that goblin and punching him in the face. It felt good. All I can say is a massive shout out to everyone who lent me gold and helped me along the way on this quest. They literally had nothing to gain from helping me, a lowly noob, and yet they still did. Before I went to bed, Gizcard had one more thing to show me, which would solidify my final thoughts on this game being an MMO, and that was, of course, player housing. And I'm not talking personal player houses, I mean ones which you can share with the community. These houses also had other functions, such as being a storefront, so you can trade items with other players. That, my friend, is very MMO. But anyway, I was very tired, so I logged off for the night, but I would return a couple days later with a friend. I wanted to see if one of my fellow ESO content creators would agree that this was a MMO. So I picked none other than Nice Gaming, who has absolutely oodles worth of experience when it comes to the Elder Scrolls Online. to how would he fare with Morrowind. Why did you look like that?
It was default. Oh,
She literally went default, but the funny thing is we kind of look the same, and I picked mine.
Oh, tells you a lot about how basic you are.
Now, I didn't want to spoil Morrowind too much for Nice. I want him to discover it on his own accord, but I did feel like I should be nice to him and get him some gear so he can actually kill some stuff. So first up was the local shops. Do you know anything about Morrowind, by the way?
Not a damn thing. I never played any Elder Scrolls except for the Elder Scrolls Online.
Something terrible.
I kitted him out with a basic weapon and a basic helmet, just so I wouldn't have to look at his ugly face. Ah, much better, much better. All right. Do you know what? Maybe we should go to our daily writs. What do you think?
Oh, that sounds horrible.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Whilst on our way to Vivek City, we ran into an old friend of mine. I stopped to have a little chat, and once again, Gizcard, they showed their true generosity and gave us some money to help us with our travels. Honestly, 10 out of 10 guy. We were going in opposite directions, so I said our goodbyes, and yeah, off we went to continue adventuring. Welcome to Vivek. Do you remember Vivek City on Morrowind?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's now the future, and it's built. So, this is what it looks like now.
Oh yeah, I could tell. They're like an Unreal Engine 5 now.
God damn it. You see the big rock? That's the big rock. The big rock that's gonna hit the town and kill everyone. You know the big rock?
That's not just a rock. It's a boulder.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, it's the other way around.
I didn't get the reference, but it's fine. See this guy, Vivek. Say hello to Vivek.
Oh, this guy. I've seen him in a bunch of memes.
Yeah, this is the meme. This is where the meme comes from. I think the PvP's on, by the way.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
Feeling lucky?
Are you feeling lucky? I'm in full armor. Oh yeah, so the combat, I should probably explain how it works. Oh, shit. Ow. It's not like if you hit them, it actually hits, it's RNG. So like every time you go to hit someone, it's like rolling a dice. And depending on how many skill points you have in the weapon that you're using will determine if you hit or not.
How do I block? Oh, there's no blocking, I'm assuming.
No, no blocks, just run away. There is PvP on the server though, by the way. You can actually flag for PvP. But I could stand there and you might not even hit me. Oh look, we're flagged for PvP. I'm not gonna lie, this is some of the most enjoyable Elder Scrolls PvP I've had in quite some time. This is still RNG, like it's RNG if I'm actually gonna hit you or not. Oh. Oh.
I'm on the back of like a carriage.
You in Skyrim?
Yeah. What the hell?
Finally, you're awake. We played for a couple of hours and saw the sights of Morrowind, and at one point we even bumped into some other players who cured me of my disease. I'm not sure which disease, but I had some sort of disease. If anyone says it, no, it wasn't chlamydia. We then went off and visited Ebonheart.
Whenever you leave me alone, the guards kind of they give me a hard time. I'm kind of surrounded now. I need you to stay closer so they know I'm with you. Help.
And we even checked out some delves, which was going really well until it wasn't going really well. It went tragically. Oh god, he sucked me out. And I died. Oh no!
Oh, okay. Alright.
Now, fun fact, when you die, you lose half your gold.
Yep, I noticed that earlier.
Oh.
What was that? And now I'm just being, outnumbered by these things because you abandoned me. Now I'm wondering what like amazing single player games from my childhood can be modded for multiplayer to have like a shared experience like this.
Oblivion and Skyrim both have multiplayer mods, but this one has like dedicated servers, which is why I want to try it.
This is pretty cool.
Yeah, if Skyrim did something similar to this, I'd probably play it to death. So a lot of people will straight away say, no, it's not an MMO. There aren't 1,000 people on screen at the same time. Which, let's be honest here, what is the maximum amount of people you've ever seen on screen at any given time on any MMO where it wasn't just a player hub? Most servers had a max capacity of 64 players, but let's be real here, this game is using the same engine as Dark Age of Camelot, and that game had hundreds of people on the same server at any given time. So if someone really did push it, I'm pretty sure you could make this over 100 people quite easily. It would just be a little bit crowded. So here's why I think Morrowind Online, as I'm now calling it, should be considered as a MMO. Number 1, it has fetch quests, and that's undeniably a MMO trait. Number 2, it has an open world with open world PvP and PvE. That's pretty impressive. You can do group questing and delves, also very MMO. There are in fact guilds that you can create and join. There's obviously player housing, which is very endgame MMO. And let's not forget that there's even an in-game economy, with certain items being more scarce than others and random loot drop. And controversially, you can play this solo whilst also being in a world full of other players. Isn't that what most MMO players do these days? There's only 3 things that go against it as to why it's not a MMO. Number 1, it doesn't have a cash shop and it doesn't try to do pay to win. That's not very MMO-like. Number 2, the players are actually social and communicate with each other. In fact, the community is really nice. So yeah, that's probably not a MMO if the community is nice. And number 3, the amount of players who can play at any given time. Okay, it doesn't have 64 players every day of the week, but still, it had more players than some other MMOs, so what's the difference? Some might say I'm only calling it a MMO so I can loosely associate it to my channel and cover it off.
You got me.
They might be right, but do you know what? It does definitely feel like an MMO when you play it and there are other people online. And isn't that something? And on that bombshell, I'm going to end the video there. Let me know in the comment section below if you want me to cover off more modded MMOs, I'm going to call them. And if you do like this content, obviously give it a like. The more likes it gets, the more likely I am to try and do this type of content again. And to anyone who's interested, I have a guide on my website in case you want to give this mod a go yourself. Thank you to all my Patreon and YouTube members for supporting the channel, and I'll leave a couple of videos on the screen for you now, which you might enjoy. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.
You there? Can you help a warrior? Oh.